Okay, says that 6 summer signing, soon to be number 7 with Kasama. I genuinely think we'll sign at least another 6 when the outgoing start. Hope Windass isn't true, though the guy's a moron, bit harsh. And a couple of more on Rangers. Robert says Vaclav Cherny should have been signed with Lennon Miller. Young in years, but so much ability, they didn't come along too often. Perfect fit at Rangers if you want the best. And sorry, on Windass, Donny says 18 goal contributions last season, available on a free, knows the league, knows the club, a smart, low-risk option, but Mikey counters it by saying he was an empty shirt when he was here and he's found his level. And Rangers away days says Windass, plenty of talent, but it comes with the heart of a mouse. He is keen on bringing Hagi back, though.
Just in terms of Windass, Daniel, I mean, look, I think on a free transfer, getting Josh Windass back, you know, the guy said there, knows the league, knows Rangers. I think he's a far better player now than he was when he was at Rangers first time around or when he left. So on a free transfer, I think he'd score goals in the Scottish Premiership. So it's certainly something that Rangers might look at. But I was speaking to somebody today. I mean, I think I'm right in saying Wrexham are also in for Windass and are offering them decent money to go there. We know obviously about the backing that they've got and the kind of ambitions that they've got.
I saw Norwich as well, Scott. Norwich.
What's that?
Norwich in from as well.
Aye, so I think he'll definitely have other options. So my gut is that in terms of Rangers, that probably won't happen. Hagi as well. I don't know what Keith thinks. I'm a big fan of Hagi, and we stuck up for him a lot on this show last season when he was going through a tough time at Rangers for a variety of reasons. But I don't know, it just feels like once he's away, once he's gone, to then kind of pull him back, just doesn't feel right. And again, my gut is, as I say, even though I'm a big fan of Hagi, and I thought, especially when he first arrived at Rangers, he was a terrific player, but I don't know, I think that ship's probably sailed now with Hagi.
Do you know what I think there, Scott? What's I think is interesting, and you're starting to see patterns in terms of the Rangers recruitment drive and profiles of the sort of players they're looking for, and it's the first window that's really made sense in terms of you can see the jigsaw coming together a little bit, and the identikit of what Russell Martin is looking for. What I think Hagi would maybe struggle, and why I think it's doubtful, and I do think he's a really talented boy. Of course he is. But it seems to me that Rangers are really gearing up to be a physical side next season. I don't just mean physical as in, aggressive and want to, battle with people. But I think the defenders look like specimens. Big boys, athletic. There seems to be an emphasis on, a bit of height and physicality, but also an ability to play the ball out from the back. You can see that in the signings that are being made. And in terms of up front, it looks like speed is going to be the key. That all the players, and when you look at their attributes, the guys that are getting mentioned, the guys that appear to be on Russell Martin's wish list, there's pace all over it. And that's what you would look at Hagi and think, are you going to fit into the sort of blueprint of a side that Russell Martin, all the technical ability going, Yanis Hagi. And I think he's a very good professional as well, and the right sort of guy. I think as a professional, he's top notch. But would he have that pace? He certainly not. That's the one thing that was lacking from his game, would have been pace. I think anyone would say that. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't feel to me as if he would fit into the sort of prototype of player that Russell Martin appears to be profiling for this recruitment drive. And I think the big difference is, had this been last year, Rangers with the scattergun approach, yep, I'll take that one, this one. But for the first time in years, you can actually see what it is that they're trying to put together, as opposed to just picking random guys from left, right and centre and hoping it comes good.
Keith, I think you're right, but no, the interesting thing about that is that so far, pretty much every player has been for the English market. I think every player they've signed is for the English market. Now, ordinarily, you would think, well, that's quite risky. Why you kind of, why you kind of put yourself in a corner with just going to England, right? We know that it's a market Russell Martin and Kevin Thelwell know best. But as I say, ordinarily, you'd think, is that maybe a wee bit narrow-minded? Do they need to broaden their horizons, look at other leagues? But as you say, I think previously when Rangers have went down that route, you've had reason to kind of question certain signings and wonder why they were going for them, where they would fit in, what the attributes were. But actually, I agree with you, even though they have all been for England so far, I'm pretty much looking at everyone and I can see why Russell Martin's going for them and where they might fit into this Rangers team. There does seem to be a proper strategy behind it, even though, as I say, they're coming for the one country now. Listen, that might not continue. As one of the comments said there, I think Rangers have probably still got another 5 or 6 to get in. And when they go and try and get strikers and attacking players, you tend to find they can be more pricey down south. So it might be like a Turgeman, for instance, who's been mentioned in Israel. Might be that the attack-minded players, they need to go further afield. But I think it's really interesting in terms of them focusing on that market, because people always when you go to the Championship, and even Fernandes in League One, people always say, is that going to be good enough? People underestimate Scottish football. They think these guys will come up and scoosh it up here, and a lot of times it doesn't happen. But I agree with you. I think even though they're in that market, you're looking at all of these players and you can see real potential there and where they're going to fit into this Rangers team.
I certainly just think there's a strategy, Scott, and that's what Rangers have been missing in the transfer market. They were recruiting this one from there, that one from over there, and there was no set, you weren't looking at any of them going, well, if he comes out the team, he goes in, I see that, he'll do a similar job. It was all individuals, wasn't it? The previous sort of transfer windows, with no grand plan or design as to what it's actually going to look like when it's on the pitch together. And I think this time there's hope for Rangers fans that they've got a recruitment drive that is in full swing at the minute, and it's moving towards something, a sort of a vision of what Russell Martin wants his team to look like. And that I think is a good first step. Now, the interesting thing, I think you're absolutely right with that, Scott, is there is a sort of an attitude, I think, which is often prevalent, which is, well, if we bring them up from England, they're bound to be better than anything else in Scotland. And that's a bad mistake. It's been made before by many, many people, and by Rangers on very many occasions as well. But I think what you see, and we're talking about the kind of profile, Russell Martin obviously knows the market, and that's obviously first and foremost, it's his rebuild. He's in charge of it, or he's the guy that his neck's going to be on the block if it doesn't work. So I can absolutely sympathise with wanting to go into the market that he knows the best. But two, when you look at the guys, are they Premier League players? There are some guys involved in this that have made it to the Premier League and just haven't quite, at a decent level. It's not as if they've got to the Premier League and, kind of stumbled around at the bottom end of it. Clubs like Bournemouth and Wolves, for example, they're good Premiership, established Premier League clubs. So if you can't just quite nail down a place in the starting 11 at a Bournemouth or a Wolves, there is enough there to suggest you should be able to cope with the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah.
And then there's another kind of level of player, the players that have done really well at the top end of the Championship, that were, Premier League bound. And I can understand the thinking behind all that, because Rangers' biggest problem last season wasn't the one-to-ones or the heads-to-heads with Celtic. It was beating St Mirren and Motherwell and dropping points at Kilmarnock and whatever else. So if you can put a squad of players together that are at that level, then there is every reason to believe it should be strong enough to take care of all the rest. And then you take your chances against Celtic. And do you know what? That's maybe not the daftest sort of approach to take. Because I think, and you've seen it for a couple of years now with this Rangers squad, they're really comfortable and really adept at playing in Europe, but they just don't seem to get the bread and butter of the domestic scene. And I think, and we've discussed it before, Scott, I actually do see the sense in going back to a more British core. And as you said, later in the market, if you want a winger from wherever or a striker from abroad, but they amalgamate into a core of a dressing room which is, you know, has got the sort of British values.